Welcome, Marlena.
Oh my God, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
So this is the Mitches podcast, and today I have Marlena Marie.
Hello.
Okay, so I know, like most people are going to know you from producing Dumpster Fire, but the way I came to know about you was when I had Mark Hallworth on my show. He was telling me about your backyard.
Yes, it was a famous backyard. During the pandemic, I had just started stand-up comedy in 2019. I was obsessed and I was having a great time, and then everything shut down. So that resulted in me starting a pretty dedicated twice a week writing group, which we called the Super Friends.
Oh my God. And that's a Simpsons reference?
I think, yeah. Actually don't even remember where it came from, but we called it the Super Friends. And we would meet twice a week. It was like an open mic, but on Zoom, and it made life tolerable. Well, then things started kind of opening up in July. So that was the winter, and so that kept me writing and excited about comedy. And then the summer happened and things started opening up a bit. There were park shows. And some of those park shows were misogynist, and some of those
a stand-up comedy show that was misogynist.
Right. Yeah, and also, like, if you weren't already a staple in the scene, getting on it was like, it wasn't happening for you. It's crazy. I have a huge backyard at Ossington and Bloor.
Okay.
Right near Comedy Bar. Please don't stalk me. Actually, you know what? Because everybody knows where I live because of the situation. But I have this huge backyard. It was just treated like garbage. There was just garbage all over it. The basement had just been renovated. There were piles of things everywhere. This backyard was not in a good shape. After one of these park shows, me and the Super Friends went to have a beer in my backyard, and I was like, what if we made shows here? Like, it's a big enough space. It could probably fit 100 people. It was that big. Like, what if we had proper lights? Like, what if we could make good shows here and and get our stage time in, since we've been robbed of it during the pandemic? That way we don't give up, right? Of course, Mark Hallworth was super excited.
Was he one of the Super Friends?
He was.
Okay, I love it.
Yes. Yeah. We were very, very close at that time. And
do you remember him drinking a lot of whiskey?
A lot of whiskey. I remember him drinking a lot of beer. Yeah, he drank some whiskey for sure.
Okay. He was telling me about his whiskey obsession during the pandemic.
Oh, Mark. Yeah. So I got a bunch of comedians, because it was a disaster, okay? I got a bunch of comedians to help me clear out this horrendous backyard, to mow the grass. The first time a comedian has ever done a chore
in their life
was in my backyard. Yeah, people were eager, right? So people would actually help me out. So the group of us got that backyard to a top-notch state. I traded. I had no. The money that we got wasn't a lot, right?
You were living off of CERB.
Yes. So with the tiny bit of money,
so you have to pay your Toronto rent and your groceries. So you're not running like a huge operating budget.
No, not at all. But I was like, I'm a woman, so I was completely determined that it had to have twinkle lights.
Oh, we need twinkle lights.
Absolutely. Twinkle lights. I couldn't afford professional lighting, but I got a construction light. I traded it on, do you remember Buns? It was a trading.
Buns?
Yeah, it was a trading site in Toronto.
I didn't know about this. It sounds like it trades something else.
Yeah, totally. No, this was we'll put a pin in buns. You need to have a conversation with someone about buns, because that was a magical time in Toronto history. But so it was this trading site. We'll dive into that at another date.
Okay.
I got a construction light. They're really, really bright to have as the spotlight. So it was.
I like your resourcefulness.
I wanted this so bad. Got the construction light, a tiny guitar amp, and a microphone, and somebody's broken microphone stand. And that's how it started. We did shows. They were well attended. People loved it. It was pretty magical. And then I just kept adding to it. Okay, I have to describe this place to you. I called it at one point, like every little CERB paycheck more went into what this place, I called it.
Do you have photos of it?
There are photos. There are photos online. Oh, my sound just cut out. Am I still recording?
You're still recording. You know
It's
what
just
it
my
is?
Headphones.
Yeah. Sometimes I just have to move the wires around.
Okay, don't worry about it. As long as it's still recording, it's fine. I won't let it distract me.
Okay. You're a trooper.
Are there photos? Yes. I know for sure Mark Hallworth has photos.
Okay. I'll put an APB out and try to
get
a photo.
It was pretty elaborate.
What did you guys call it?
I called it first the Love Shack, because you have to understand that it's not a nice place, okay? It's huge, not a nice place. I tried to make it look like a nice place, but it ended up but it's garbage, so it ended up looking like CBGBs. Like, if you remember what, it was just it's a dark, kind of grungy place, and they put fucking twinkle lights everywhere, and there's just garbage everywhere and these twinkle lights, and I now realize it was my attempt to have some kind of escapism. Like, I needed to go to a place that did not feel like it was real life.
Yeah.
I wanted to make it as ethereal as possible, within the limitations that I had.
Yeah.
I wanted to feel like when I went there that it was just, I was in a different world, and it really did look like a different world.
That's amazing.
Because
it was a dark time. Like, people forget, but it was very emotionally exhausting and kind of like this weird sub-universe.
It looked like enchanted dystopia. It had curtain lights, and then eventually I was again, so enthusiastic. Listen, I'm an intense person. You're probably gathering that as we talk, but I was like, and Mark loved it, because I want to have a show every night as much as possible. I want it rain or shine. So we did a GoFundMe for tents. We got 2 huge industrial carport tents, 10 by 20. And
so you didn't order a party tent?
That was tents. You have to keep in mind, pandemic, a lot of people needed tents.
Oh.
For weddings and parties, because you couldn't really have them indoors.
Yeah. The
only way you were going to meet a large crowd of people was outdoors. So the tent companies were overrun with orders.
So you had to be smart and find another. I love it. This is cool.
Yeah. So it looked pretty great. It was totally magic. And it was we called it the Love Shack because in that backyard was this dilapidated, very badly unmaintained barn, and I was like, there we go.
Okay, so that's the centerpiece.
The stupid gungy old barn, and that's why I called the backyard the Love Shack.
I like it. I also like that you and Mark were buddies in this, because you guys seem very different from each other.
We are.
Mark is such a I think he's got a wholesome, sunny kind of vibe to him. He seems like he works with kids.
Yeah.
You seem like you work in like music or
It looks like
something goth.
I look like I got fired from my kindergarten teaching job. You know, I look like an art teacher that decided to share her vacation pictures, and then like a sexual one came up, and then I was kicked out by the school board.
Yes,
Yeah.
the visual arts teacher who
Right?
who had a scandal.
Yes, that's totally the vibe. So, but yeah, like we were bonded by our love for comedy. And Mark Hallworth met his now fiance.
Yes. That's how we started talking about you.
Yes.
Was that so there was a marriage that came out of this love shack.
Yes.
I love it.
It wasn't, you know, the thing that ticks me off is like, it was like my love shack. Why wasn't I the one?
Yeah, why didn't you get a true love out of it?
Like, come on. All I got was like tickets and fucking, like, you know, like, yeah.
Did you get a ticket?
I got, oh my God. Oh, the pandemic was wild. I had COVID enforcement officers stalk me.
Oh my God.
It actually got pretty serious. I had, like, because I'm not afraid of, I should be afraid of more than I am kind of thing. I'm from punk rock, right? I'm like, so I'm pretty tough. I had these enforcement officers. So it came to a point where I had invested so much money into this love shack that I was like, okay, maybe I should try recouping this. So I would house, people would like, you know, toss a hat around and give me a couple bucks. And then people were like, well, can I rent it from you? And someone used that model, but didn't think it through and posted my address publicly.
Oh my.
So they promoted their show and posted my address publicly. I had one neighbor. The rest of the neighbors, I invited the neighbors and they loved it. I actually had one neighbor.
There's always one guy.
Always one guy. One neighbor, I'll tell you the good story first. One neighbor had never done stand-up before. She's, I think, in her early 70s, never done stand-up before, and did her first stand-up set in my backyard.
Oh my God.
And it was magic. And her wife was watching, and it was totally, and she was pretty good.
Yeah.
There were some magic moments. My other neighbors came, they would come, they loved it. And then, but one neighbor, the one directly beside me, who was known to be pretty problematic, she had it out for me.
She was a Karen.
She was absolutely a Karen. Does that bother you now that that's a thing since you're Karen?
It was troubling me for a long while, and then it became funny. But so now I'm laughing about it.
You've made your peace with it. 'Cause I was like, man, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this neighbor just is known to complain about everything, but I wouldn't back down. Well, you have to know, I mentioned before that the backyard was never used.
Yeah.
And it was just a garbage pit. Well, the benefit of that to those neighbors is that they could have these, like, you know, their professors, they could have their elite intellectual friends over for dinner where they talk whispered, where they would like, and I could always overhear and be like, you know, blah, blah, blah in the news today. And you could hear like the cutlery scraping on their teeth, and you know what I mean? like their idea of a party, my idea of a fucking nightmare. And that is their idea of socialization. So us never using our backyard was like what they were used to. And now all of a sudden there's like There's like what looks like a circus with all the twinkly lights and the tents.
Yeah.
And so they had a hard time adjusting. And I was just like, listen, this is the pandemic. We're just trying to stay sane. Like, we're doing our best over here. You need to meet me halfway. Like, do you want to join?
Those events are a lifeline for people, especially comedy.
Yeah. There were a lot of people really, really hurting during those times. And a lot of people, I know that people still will tell me how much. I just had a conversation last night, how much it meant to some people. And how much they think fondly about that time.
Yeah, I wish I had even though I wasn't in comedy at the time, I wish I'd known it existed. And I have a kind of like, it's interesting to hear about what the comedy scene was doing during that time.
It's like I say this about this time. Out of all the performing art, out of all artistic endeavors, comedians are the cockroaches of the performing arts world. It doesn't fucking matter. We're gonna there were comedy shows popping up everywhere, fucking skate parks and fucking alleyways, and couldn't get the
back of a chicken. What is it? The back of a zesty burger? That's where Keys just moved to.
It's honestly, the cockroaches of the performing arts world. Like, any little dark corner, you'll find a fucking comedian. The two creative endeavors that you really, really wish people would stop will never stop. Clowns and comedians. We're never going away. No matter what happens, we'll pull through. I don't know if the painters will. I'm not sure. They're all delicate about the light that they need. You know what I mean? But the comedians will never give up.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
People who have no business in the profession will make it their whole life.
Absolutely. You cannot get, I'm telling you, the last performers on earth will be stand-up comedians and fucking clowns.
Have you dabbled in clowning at all?
I once took okay, for fuck's sakes, we're going off on all sorts of tangents. Yes, I have. Okay, that doesn't mean I still.
No, I dabbled in it too. It's okay. It's adjacent to what we do.
I had an Airbnb at my place before the pandemic, and it brought all sorts of different people through my door. But it brought me this she was from the south of France. It was a famous clown. Her costume was made by Chanel.
My God.
She was actually an amazing performer. It was very highbrow. I was so impressed.
Yeah.
And she taught me a lot of really profound things about performing.
I love it.
Yeah.
You had a French clown.
Yes.
Like a real deal. Why is France the center of clowning?
I don't know.
Sorry. I don't know. I'm pulling you in so many tangents.
I know. Why? I don't know. I fear that when I answer that question, I won't be allowed to. I'd like to go. No, it was very, very different. Okay, now we're gonna talk about the nuances of clowns.
Okay,
here.
Let's go back. So, the Love Shack. I think. Oh yeah, we were talking about the comedians being the cockroaches of comedy, and that's why.
Of art. Comedians are the cockroaches of
art.
All art.
Yeah. And that's why you had to have your backyard show during the pandemic.
Absolutely. There was nothing that was going to make me stop.
So
you're talking about the neighbors. The neighbors tried everything, and my landlord was pretty chill. Okay? This woman would call and, no, you can't do, and he's not the most versed in the law, but I am. So I was like, you tell her that blah, 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 blah. I would just be like, no, we're in our legal right. we're not breaking any COVID rules. We're being distanced, first of all. Second of all, we do a head count to make sure, and there was at one point you couldn't have a gathering more than 35. We were doing head counts. It was very well organized, and we were not breaking any COVID rules, but they just wanted their quiet nightmare dinner parties to go on. They could not stand that they were sharing any of the noise space at all. And I was just like, you're just going to have to get used to this. So this woman, I got a notice, she called, like the electrical security board for the twinkle lights.
Oh.
Okay. She just, it escalated like wild.
She went right for your twinkle lights.
So it was like the electrical, like, safety board for and so she called that. She called the fire department for operating a venue. And, like, it was a venue, but it also wasn't. Like, we weren't making money off of it. We were passing around a hat. Like,
yeah.
So she tried to get me fined for operating a business in a residential zone. She called the fire department to make them say that I couldn't have the tents up unless I had a sprinkler system. Oh, it was wild. And she brought in COVID officers. And these COVID officers, I found out later, these COVID officers, they just plucked them away from marijuana enforcement.
Oh.
So these were like the guys that were, I think marijuana was just legal, and they just tossed those.
Yeah, that's actually a good reallocation.
Yeah, right? They were like, hey, you're a good thug. Why don't you try being a thug over here now? I end up getting a lawyer. There really should be a documentary about this.
You had to get a fucking lawyer?
I got a lawyer.
Well, I guess, yeah, they're ticketing you.
They're like, I was just like, you need to, like, I've had enough. Like, these COVID officers would, like, wait for me. They would see me. Like, I wasn't going really anywhere. I would go to the corner store to pick up milk. So I would leave my house and I would go to the corner store, pick up milk. As soon as I was on the sidewalk, are you having events, blah, 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 and would, like, just come at me, these big guys. And I'm 5'1", right? And I'm just like,
yeah.
Yeah. I cannot believe that any of this was legal. So I got, at the same time, this story should be a documentary. At the same time, on Spadina Street, there was another live comedy event happening, and it was this lawyer was operating it, and she's a housing lawyer. And she was running it on, like, it was like an outdoor courtyard, and she got microphones and stuff. And so it was actually a nice space. There was, like, kind of a stage because there was, like, a staircase. And so she got all of that together. And so she was a lawyer. She was also running outdoor shows. She's also a part-time wrestler.
Fucking right.
Okay.
The wrestling community is another group of people I find adjacent to stand-up comedians, and I don't know how to explain why.
Totally, yeah. So I hired a lawyer wrestler.
My God.
To get these people off my back. And she gave me a discount and everything. And I was just like, get these people off my back. The COVID officer, I'll never forget his name. His name, Mark Fremantle was his name. Because finally he was, like, in his face, and you're not going to have events, and And I just, like, I looked at him, I didn't flinch, and I was like, can I have your card? It's like, Mark Fremantle. And then what I did is that everyone that was enjoying the space and could back me up that it wasn't like this new, like, nightclub that she was claiming it was, that it was just like a tent and some funny people, were his inbox got inundated with messages being like, this person is doing a lot for the community. It's safe. They're being responsible. Like,
yeah, you weren't like, oh, I don't care if people in my community get sick.
Yeah,
You just were doing something good
exactly.
within a well ventilated, safe space for people.
Exactly. Well, this, you would think that he would kind of like get all these messages from all these different email addresses, that it would like get him to kind of like change his tune. No, it did not. It encouraged him to try to shut it down even more. Then I dealt with the fire department. This is the greatest thing. When I say comedians are the cockroaches of the performing arts world, I really mean it, because this whole time I'm getting like instructions. Well, you can't use the tents anymore because you have to have a sprinkler system. Like in an hour, like, and Mark was one of these people. I was like, I'm not stopping. Like, I have this space. It's outside. We can't go anywhere else. That's all I care about. And I was like, so they all thought it was going to be shut down and that we would give up very easily and be very scared. And I was like, okay, the tents are down, and those tents would be down in an hour, and we would be out there performing stand-up comedy. This woman finally knew she wasn't going to win. Okay, the tents are down, and what else? You can't use a microphone. That was what my landlord said. To keep the peace, you can't use a microphone. No problem here. I can project my voice. I don't need a fucking microphone.
Yeah,
Like, everything that they did, we just were like, okay, and the show is on. So, yeah.
You persevered.
Mark Fremantle, at the height of him trying to dissuade my, from these events from happening, he was really in my face. He was not wearing a mask. And he made me call my landlord. I was like, my landlord knows. He's like, does your landlord know? I was like, yeah, my landlord knows that this is happening. I like asked his permission. He's a pretty cool landlord. And he threatened my landlord. He said, if you don't give her an eviction notice right now, I am going to write you a ticket for $10,000.
Jesus.
So he gave me a verbal eviction threat, which, like, yeah. But, like, how was that legal?
Yeah, it sounds very thug-like behavior.
It was. I have to check up and see what is happening with Mark Fremantle. What happened to this man?
Maybe he had a bad COVID too.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, so I know nowadays you're still producing. Did your show Dumpster Fire, did it evolve from the backyard show Love Shack?
Well, you can imagine that I got an infamous name. I'm sorry, I have to mention one other thing.
Okay.
That I had a roommate move in during this time.
Okay.
And they were a lost soul. They were really, really into a darker scene. But for me, I was like, I don't care. Like
a darker comedy scene?
Yeah. I was like, okay, you live in this house. He was like, can I run a night at the Love Shack?
Is this anyone I'd know? Are we concealing his name?
Yeah, you know what? And it's not for protection or anything. It's just that that period in my life has floated away, and
Okay, so he wanted to run a comedy show, but it's a darker one.
Yeah, a darker one, different, with a different demographic of people. Okay. And I allowed that. I was like, I don't care. Everybody needs a space. If your views don't align with mine, you're also welcome, because I know you've been stuck in a basement, for a year. Come do a set at my house instead of shoot up a mall. You know what I mean?
And this is something I think a lot of people on my show and in the scene have talked about is like, you don't sort of like, you don't want to prey on incels, even if you can criticize them a lot. It's like, these are people who need community.
Absolutely.
And to be able to be themselves, and hopefully through community, they evolve to a slightly better version of themselves.
As far as I was concerned, I'm like, well, it might not be a show that I want to attend, but like, these are just other human beings. And, you know, if the space is already up,
Yeah.
you know, and I like, you know, I do want to, I think, on a deeper level, on a serious level, Karen, I do think creativity is the cure for most of what is evil.
Yeah.
And so anyways, he was like, I want to run a night, and instead of the Love Shack, I want to call it the Hate Hut. And I thought that was hilarious. So I was like, you know what? Absolutely. And the Hate Hut, the Love Shack, people don't talk about the Love Shack as much as the Hate Hut is incredibly infamous.
Oh my.
In Toronto comedy. Lots of people went to the Hate Hut. It was wild chaos. As delightful and like, you know, woman run and socially distanced, like
whimsical.
We had all the roughhousing, all the roughest characters in that yard, and they would just spew out insults to each other, just like they would heckle each other's sets. It was a sight to be seen. Let's just say that. And I was like, okay, this is a different vibe than me. I'm glad that this exists, but that did get out of control.
Yeah.
Like the other stuff, I'm like, okay, you're making a meal out of this, crazy lady. But the Hate Hut, for sure. Like, no one should have gotten mad at the Love Shack. Everyone should have been offended by the Hate Hut. So it remains in Toronto history. That's us. And then, sorry, I had to mention that part of it.
No, okay, yes. I'm very glad that you did, because I feel more informed about what went down.
Yes, it was. I'm telling you, like, it would have made, like, even a TV series. What happened in that backyard was wild. And I ended up, it was really great, transformative experience, because I was then hanging out with people that I didn't agree with. And maybe I didn't agree with them. I didn't like their comedy, but I was like, but you know, like, this is a tough time. Like, are we really going to be that hard on each other at this time? So, and, you know, we would end up having conversations, and I would be open-minded. And then I would discover this person is not actually that different than me. When I would kind of explore some of the wild concepts that they were holding on to, you would find out that this person actually does want love and goodness for other people. They're just repeating sentences that they've heard that sound cool, like, for some of them. Other ones were monsters. But it really was a wild time. I had an infamous name from this situation. That's when Gary Rideout, the owner of Comedy Bar, started answering my emails.
So you'd been trying to talk to him before?
Yeah, no response for a very long time. And then after all of this happened, then, you know, because I
had the cred.
I had
to get your show on Comedy Bar's calendar.
Yes, I was tried out for a couple shows, and I had a roster of people that would come to my Love Shack shows. So those shows sold out at Comedy Bar. And he's like, okay, you're doing well with these. And eventually, Comedy Bar has never opened on a Monday before. And so he's like, well, the other dates are booking up. Do you want to try a Monday? And I said, try a Monday? I want all your Mondays.
Amazing.
Just for a month, I want all your Mondays. You know, check in again. how's that going? Okay, I've sold out those. Now I want this month's All Your Mondays. Nobody wanted the Monday, so that's how I got in.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted that date. The pandemic, it was a huge risk. No, people were still not going out to shows.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted those Mondays. And I'd be like, fuck it. This is my dream. I want the Monday. So then it just ended up having this thing where then just suddenly Gary stopped like asking me. It was just, we had this thing where it's just, yeah, that's Mondays. This is what we do. So that was 5 years ago, and I've been running that show for 5 years.
But now something's changing.
Yes, something is changing. It's really wonderful. I'm like still in shock about it. So Danish Anwar, who runs Roast Battle Canada and all sorts of different shows at Yuck Yucks. I'll have to say this also. There was a time, and I haven't been that involved in the stand-up community. Like you don't see me around. I'm kind of like, I'm a little bit of a secret now. Like I was infamous at one point. And then after having that experience and all the drama with having that venue, I hid away on my Monday show. I didn't do other shows. So I was, I guess, what's the word? Reclusive?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I could experiment a lot on that Monday show. I could be a bit reclusive, still have my Monday show, and just experiment a lot and then come up with my own kind of unique style, like under the radar. So now I've gotten to the point where I feel like it's been really, really well shaped and really well developed. And now people are starting to take notice on me, even though I'm tucked away on a Monday. So Danish Anwar, who runs a significant amount of shows, he runs Your Hood is a Joke. He runs Roast Battle Canada. So yeah, he's pretty significant. He came, it was around September, he came and finally I invited him to see the show, and afterwards he came up to me and he was like, this was a really fun show. He said, why is this not a Saturday? And I was like, I'm always thinking that, but I've got it on a Monday. He goes, I want to co-produce with you. Like, he has the connections, he has the experience. He's like, this show has to be a Saturday, and I know you'll sell out, and I know that the people that see the show will come back. And it's like, so I kind of got discovered.
Yeah.
And so this upcoming February the 13th, it's a Thursday because it's Galentine's Day. We are going to have a regular monthly Saturday show. It's at a new venue called the Dopamine Lounge.
Amazing.
Which is at Yonge and Eglinton.
Yonge and Egg.
And it's great. It's got a wonderful lighting system, and it seats 300 people. So
oh, wow.
I'm going from my cult following on a Monday to a 300 seater venue.
Wow.
We've only just released the tickets a couple days ago. We're already a quarter way sold out. So
I love it.
It is probably going to be sold out.
So the show is starting out on Galentine's Day, day before Valentine's Day, which is a Thursday, but then it will become a regular Saturday show. Okay.
So our next show is going to be on International Women's Day, March the 8th.
Nice.
Yeah.
And your is it always the same co-host?
Yes.
And that's Kareen
Kazan, who's
nice.
An up and coming, really, really extremely talented comedian. She has amazing instincts. She has a really well-crafted persona, which is not far from her like amazing personality. And yeah, we've been doing a lot of experiments with the show. We're doing a lot of wild things, and
it's called Dumpster Fire.
It's called Dumpster Fire because when I was running my Monday shows, I was running them by myself with no help. And so, and we know that, you know, comedians sometimes not reliable. So one person just wouldn't show up, you know, something always would happen. You know, one of the microphones isn't working. One time, both spotlights died immediately before the show. Something would always happen. And I finally said, fuck it. We're calling it dumpster fire. I've had enough. We're just going to make a meal out of the fact that this show is always a disaster.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's so good. And comedy is all about the mistakes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that's we have like, there's a bunch of things that we're doing that I haven't seen anybody do before that have just been like my stupid ideas that we've actually, like, I'll come up with a stupid idea, but then Kareen will be like, let's do it. Like, so it's given birth to like a few.
That's what you need, is like one idiot and then a second idiot who believes in the first idiot.
Yes. I'm like, oh my God, like this is like, you no. Please, someone say no. So there's part of a show, I had another co-host named Alessandra West. One of her favorite things to do to engage with the audience during the show is she would ask them what their icks were. And that was always fun. It would always make for at least a funny clip for the Instagram. And she, when Danish wanted to produce the show on a Saturday, she already has this really, really well established social media career.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, and I say some really off color remarks, so you know, I think she didn't want to ruin her career.
Yeah. Which is fair. Like, everyone has their sort of like main thing that they do. Yeah. And you need two people's things to complement each other or to go separate ways.
Yeah,
right?
Totally. So we had, you know, Alessandra is a really talented comedian. I was kind of devastated, but you have to move forward with your career. I was like, okay, well, I have to move forward with my career. I cannot say no to this opportunity because I've wanted this for my entire career. I guess I'm going to have to move forward without you. And I didn't want to take that bit with me because that was so her. And also, like, I wanted to, I've been hearing a lot of people talk about icks, so maybe it's been something that's been done now.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't want to be redundant. And also, I had got some feedback that it was funny, but it was also it bummed people out. It was a bit negative. So those people need to grow some courage. They need to toughen up. But instead, we got, I was like, what if we asked audience members like specific questions, you know, to engage with the audience instead of what's your ick? Like, what about like, you know, boxers or briefs, cola or Pepsi? Like, what if we engaged with them that way? And so we came up with way better questions than that, I promise. Those are dumb questions. But we ended up getting, I live near Value Village, and there would be like discarded board games. And a lot of those were like for families, questions and answers. So we ended up getting a stockpile, because I'm a hoarder, of these discarded board games of questions. And then we found this like fancy box also at Value Village. And I was like, what about if we just said that this was the magic box of questions?
Ooh, I like it.
Then I was like, oh, wouldn't that be cool if we could like get like fog coming out of it? You know, you open the box and there'd be fog coming out of it. You know what I mean? Like, let's make it as magical as possible.
Literally, yeah.
And this was like one of my first like meetings with Kareen. She was like, like 2 minutes later, I ordered it. She
Oh my
goes,
God.
I found it on Amazon.
Okay,
It
I
exists.
see what you mean about the encouragement there.
Yeah,
Where
totally.
she should have said no.
Yeah.
But she's like, yeah, I just ordered it.
Yeah, it's like I ordered it. It's already here. So we have this fog machine inside of this box, and when you open the box, there's like twinkle music, and then you pick out a question from the audience, and that's the magic box of questions. And we should be definitely tired of this right now. And I never get tired of it. It's always so much fun. It's the greatest. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't take much to amuse me.
I love it. It's whimsical. It's like the twinkle lights at your backyard show. You know,
Yes.
It's just like something that makes it magic and
A little
fun.
bit. Like, I love the movie The Labyrinth.
Oh my God.
That's like my favorite.
That is like, yeah, it's an incredible movie.
It's an incredible movie, and like what I really love about it is like they kind of like destroy this kind of magical type of thinking where in that world fairies bite, you know, that like that kind of thing. It really, I just love that sense of humor, and it, you know, it's,
yeah, they took a lot of the conventional fantasy elements, but they added like their own dark twists to everything.
exactly. Yeah. I think I was like really inspired by that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so now I work in film, and I know all sorts of people that can do all sorts of wonderful things. I have a really good friend who has worked on Star Trek. He is the most remarkable prop builder and costume designer, and I got him to make it's like bigger than the size of a shoebox, but a handheld dumpster fire.
Oh my gosh.
Like an actual tiny dumpster, and the fog comes out of the dumpster, and it looks like it's on fire, and it's like, and it is wonderful.
I love it.
So for the 13th, instead of the magic box of questions, we are going to have the dumpster of destiny.
Oh my God. There's a real dumpster fire at Dumpster Fire.
Absolutely. Yes, totally. So like, yeah. So it's not just a comedy show.
Yeah.
It's,
I like how the pieces of your life are like tying together. So like you said you were in film, but specifically you did costume design
yes.
for many, many years.
Yes.
Prior to getting into comedy. So that aspect, like it's still with you.
Yeah.
Like the connections, the know-how, like that part of yourself that loves physical and magical things.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you can, you know, it's like with these people and these connections, you can really make your ridiculous idea that you shouldn't have even said out loud. You can make it a thing. So I don't know how this is going to go over because it's a little far-fetched.
Yeah.
Like, is the average person, because for my cult following that I've built for my show, like, I know those guys are going to get it. But for a 300-person seater,
Yeah.
you know, statistically, some of those people are going to be normal.
But like if you look at say like the movie Labyrinth, like that's a hugely popular movie, even though that was very fucking weird.
It was
and
very
it was
weird.
probably when you were like, oh, a children's movie, we'll have David Bowie play
Yeah.
an evil, is he a fucking goblin?
Like he was the ruler of the goblin. Yeah. Karen, you're forgetting that movie.
Like that
We need to get together and rewatch that movie.
I haven't
now.
seen it in a number of years. But it's like sometimes there's something that is really weird and niche that for some reason can be taken to a bigger audience. And the only way you find out is if you try.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know what Dumpster Fire is going to look like in a year, because it was just a straight up, it was just like, yay, comedy show. We have these comedians, and then you would vote for your favorite who would be headliner. And that was the most gimmicky.
So that though, I like that. It may be gimmicky, but it subverts this conventional
Yes.
comedy show, which is like, here's our headliner and they're the most important person and they're gonna go last and they'll have a long set, and then here's these people who are opening up for them.
I love fucking up hierarchy. It is my favorite thing to do. And it's not that I don't love seasoned comedians that have worked really, really hard and should get headliner spots. But I just like, I don't want to adhere to the way that things are supposed to. That's one thing about me and Mark. I would drive him nuts. He'd be like, Brittany, you're not supposed to do that. And I'm like, there's no rules in my land.
Because Mark, he does like to enforce rules, and he'll tell you when you get out of line. And it's why he's a good host and good at running shows, because he keeps the order. And I find like I sometimes have to like put on like a Mark attitude when I don't want to, because it's like I'm the boss of something, so I need to make it work by enforcing rules. But you have like an opposite personality to Mark, which is like break rules.
Yes, I enjoy the chaos. He doesn't like chaos. I enjoy chaos. I know. I thrive in the chaos, you know. I also like making fun of dumb rules. Like, if we need to be recognized as an art form, that needs to happen, because it's not recognized as an art form in Canada. Yeah. That needs to happen, and I think we're going to do that by breaking the rules. I break a lot of rules with Dumpster Fire. One is in the way I do the lineup. I will come out with and that's why I could host the shows alone, but A, it's way less fun. And B, I can get away with that. It was a strategic thing. I can get away with getting the most stage time because I go and I host with a co-host. And in a tiny little bit of a sense, when you have a co-host, you have a little bit of a different persona, a little bit. So you go and you have your co-host set, and in between acts, you have your co-host set. But because you've got this co-host set, then you can open the door. And so I will do a set of 15 to 20 minute set by myself. I'll do my stand-up set nearing the end of the show. So it's like I'm still supporting the show, and I'm getting the most stage time as possible. This may seem like a very narcissistic thing to do, but you have to understand that when going into this, I had then gone through all of the clubs shutting down, me losing out on all of the really, really important stage time that I needed to grow as a comedian. Yeah. And after I made the outdoor venue, I made a pact with myself, because I got walked all over. Every morning I'm like picking up empties that aren't mine. You know what I mean? Yeah. People were gracious, but people did.
A crowd of people is always...
And a crowd of comedians.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? I made sure I was like, okay, I need to make sure that I am thinking about myself. You know, I am dedicated to becoming a comedian, a professional one. That's definitely what I want to do with my life. I need to make sure that my needs are being met, you know, because I can be a people pleaser. You know, there were times that if somebody would come barreling in the door and be like, can I have 10 minutes? I've got a special tomorrow. I would end up like doing little hosting in between the comedians and completely abandoning my sets. So this was a way to organize getting all of that set time back, managing having a really good show, but also making sure that I was always growing as a stand-up comedian.
Okay, so just to be clear, there's still someone headlines, but they get voted into the headlining position. Mm-hmm. And that happens like at the end of the show. Yes. So you've seen everyone, and then you say like, who do you guys want?
Right before, so last week's headliner, so we do voting right before the headliner comes in. So it would be last week's headliner. Right?
Oh, okay. So you're voting on this show
for the next week's headliner.
Got you.
Yeah. So it just, and all it matters is if you have a good day. Like I've seen newbies headline and like seasoned people have maybe a less of a great set.
Yeah.
And that's how it's kind of, it's wild. You really can't predict who's gonna headline, except if you book Sandra Battaglini, in which case she's always gonna headline. Like, that woman, even on a bad day, always pulls off a remarkable set.
What's her last name?
Battaglini.
Battaglini?
I think I'm fucking this up. It's Italian and I've got a stiff tongue, okay?
Yeah, I do as well.
Battaglini.
Battaglini.
Yeah. The mayor of comedy. She was in that.
I love it.
Yeah, that's the only person that I know.
That she just always wins when she
just does.
Okay, but I feel like those are fighting words, because now there's other people who are like, no, I'm going to get on it. I'm always going to win.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. But there's something else I wanted to ask you, and now I'm blanking on it.
It'll come back.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. So I like
5 most important films to see.
Oh God. Oh no. 5 most important films to see. Like, anyone in general, or I have to tell you something though.
Yeah.
I have to tell you that because I work in film and I have to look at the monitor, like my job a lot of the time is on set making sure that like a button doesn't pop off, or
yeah,
like, you know what I mean? Because I have to look at the screen sometimes, like a lot of the time. When I go home, I don't unwind and watch TV.
Oh, so you may be like a bit behind on.
I'm behind. I am like,
okay.
Yeah, I'm bad at water cooler talk.
Yeah, or like, I haven't seen anything in 2 decades.
Anything, you know? People would be like, have you seen The Last of Us? And I'm like, have you ever imagined that you're a turtle? You know what I mean? So that's why I was like, I have to make it in comedy, because I'm not going to be good in an office now.
Yeah, it's a weird life, I think, to have spent all this time in film.
Yeah.
Like, how do you think that changed you?
Okay. Yeah, okay. How has that changed me? I have a lot of really strong feelings about film. The film industry is evil.
Oh.
It's really evil. And I know that I'm being maybe too honest, but I don't care. Don't cut this out. The film industry is evil. Like, and you have to be incredibly resilient in all departments. Actor, crew member, because there's always productions. You have ups and you have downs, and there's no consistency. Like, you'll be at the top of the world. I've been in a part of costume departments that have won Emmys. I've been part of 2 productions that have been nominated for Oscars, and I've also struggled and begged people to hire me. So no matter how good you're doing, it's like, it only depends on what you did last. And that's really frustrating, because you build up a career, you build these skills, and you think like, yeah, this is solid, I can rely on this. But even Oscar winning actors go through periods where they're not getting hired for work. And that's the reality. So you end up, it's quite inconsistent. You have to be really, really good at emotionally managing yourself when you have a ridiculous amount of free time. So finding purpose in something else. So film will eat you up and then spit you out. And I'm dead serious about that. Anyone in film, it will completely, like, if you're wondering why, like, there's a lot of celebrity marriages that don't work, well, how are you supposed to make any relationship work at all if most of your time you have to travel? Because lots of things are not filmed in Hollywood anymore. If you're traveling for 6 months of the year, and the standard working day on a film set is minimum 12 hours. That's for the camera department. So that's not counting, like, for an actor, that on average would end up being a 15, 16-hour day, especially if you're getting, like, maybe 17 if you're getting prosthetics done. So you're away from your family, but also every single day at 5 days a week, they do get the weekends off. Sometimes, if they're lucky, most of the time, but you're away from your family and you're working a standard 15-16 hour day. How are you supposed to keep in touch with your wife and your kids? How are you supposed to keep in touch with your friends? You end up being, and then of course the crew is kind of instructed to not talk to the talent. So you're there and it's lonely. So, it's definitely put a different spin on, some people glamorize, ooh, I want to be an actor. And I'm just like, that would at times be a goddamn nightmare.
Yeah.
The film industry is an evil industry. I still love being a part of it.
Yeah. Having said that,
because being creative is like, oh, it's so intoxicating, and literally making dreams come true, even if they're not my dreams.
Yeah.
It's like you feel like God.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because you're part of the process.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so for me there's nothing better than being creative. So, it's definitely it's why I'm single. It's why I don't have like a relationship, because everything is like you're interrupted, right? So, but this year, thank God, with all of these different, also Dumpster Fire has now, it's going to be moved to either Thursday or a weekend spot. So no longer a Monday.
Amazing.
Which is crazy. So I'm graduating in my career. And I'm really hoping that this year financially I will
be able to kiss film goodbye.
Yeah.
And just be like 100% comedy.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, I really want this for you. I'm very excited about Dumpster Fire. I'm gonna come check it out. So let's just focus on the Galentine's Day show, which is at the new venue.
Yes, it's at the Dopamine Lounge, brand new venue.
Yonge and Eglinton.
Correct.
So that's Thursday, February 13th.
Correct. Yep.
All right. And then I'm also going to plug my show, which I like that you're moving off of Mondays, because I've just started a Monday show.
Oh!
I need all the off camera. I'm going to need Monday promoting advice.
Yes.
But my show is Funny Bitches with Karen Mitches. It's the fourth Monday of every month, and that's at Backroom Comedy Club.
Amazing.
Okay. Thanks so much for being on, Marlena.
Thank you so much for having me.